Oftentimes, biblical interpretations and preaching have attempted to portray Jesus in a certain way. But do you know some of the common things being said about Jesus might have been a lie? Here are 10 of the biggest lies about Jesus that you need to know. Stick around till the end of this video to see how many of these lies you knew. Number 10. Jesus wrote the New Testament. When it comes to the Bible and the study of written sources, scholars have shed some light on the history of both halves of the Bible, the Old and New Testament. Old Testament contains the story of the children of Israel, among other things, before the birth of Jesus, and New Testament is from the birth of Jesus onward. However, although the New Testament is filled with many teachings of Jesus, Jesus in fact didn't write any portion of the New Testament, nor did he write any of the Old Testament. He couldn't, because he wasn't even born yet. Traditionally, 13 of the 27 books of the New Testament of the Bible were attributed to the Apostle Paul, who famously converted to Christianity after meeting Jesus in a vision on the road to Damascus. Number 9. Jesus was white. This is the most common image of Jesus that's been seen around the world. He is depicted as light skin with a beard. He has long hair and often with blue eyes. But history shows Jesus was a Palestinian Jewish man living in Galilee in the 1st century. Forensic scientists have done facial reconstruction of 2,000-year-old skulls from Palestine in order to get a sense of what Jesus might have looked like. Olive skin, black hair, and larger nose. Not as he's normally depicted. Number 8. Muslims don't believe in Jesus. Of course, Jesus is the central figure of Christianity, so he's often just associated with that faith. However, the Quran, the Muslim holy book, mentions Jesus many times as an important holy figure. He is not referred to as the Son of God in any way. He is, however, commonly acknowledged and considered to be a mighty messenger of God. Number 7. Jesus is Christian. Jesus was a Jew, but he was a Jew born in Galilee in a Jewish part of the world. All of his close associates, his disciples, were all Jews. He regularly worshipped in Jewish communal worship as well. A Christian is a follower of Christ. Jesus himself is the Christ, the Messiah, so it wouldn't make sense to follow himself. The term Christian only appeared well into the book of Acts, when they were given that name by other people. Before that, the followers of Jesus were just called the followers of the way, or they were believed to be a Jewish sect that would follow Jesus. Number 6. Jesus was called Jesus. Jesus was Jewish by birth and by religion, and it therefore makes sense that he would have a Hebrew name. That's the language of the Jews. The name Jesus is simply a derivative of the Greek translation of his real name. His Greek-speaking apostles were probably unable to pronounce his Hebrew name, which was Yehoshua, also pronounced as Yeshua. But when the name is translated into English, it becomes Joshua. Number 5. Jesus had 12 disciples. The belief that Jesus only had 12 disciples is based on the misunderstanding of the 3 categories of Jesus' followers. The first was made up of those who came to hear him speak or to be healed by him whenever he entered a town or a village. The second category are the people who followed Jesus from town to town, and these were called disciples according to the Gospel of Luke. Those were about 70 of them in total. The third category of the followers of Jesus are known as the apostles. These are the 12 men that Jesus appointed to go off on their own and preach the message independently without Jesus' supervision. So these weren't just mere disciples because they didn't just follow the teachings of Jesus, but they also went to share the message and start new churches in different parts of the world. Jesus had many disciples, but he appointed 12 of them to be apostle. Number 4. Jesus taught once he became an adult. One common lie is that Jesus only taught when he became an adult. Jesus was a preacher as an adolescent. The Bible describes a time when Jesus was 12 years old and he was found by his parents preaching in the temple to adults and asking them questions. Everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. So at 12 years old, not only was Jesus asking questions to other religious leaders, but he was also teaching them and giving them answers according to the text. Number 3. There were 3 wise men. Did you know that there weren't 3 wise men? It's a common scene depicted, especially around Christmas time. It does report that some wise men came to Jesus when he was born, but it does not say how many, contrary to the common belief that there were 3 of them. None of the early church texts suggested that these wise men were 3. There were apparently at least 2 of them, but there could have been several more. The Bible simply mentions 3 gifts that were presented to baby Jesus: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Number 2. Jesus was an only child. Jesus was actually the firstborn, not an only child of Mary. According to the Bible, in the book of Matthew chapter 13 verses 55, it says, "Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother's name Mary? And aren't his brothers Joseph, Simon, and Judas?" Number 1. Jesus was born on Christmas. The Bible does not specify a day or a month that Jesus was born. One problem is that a lot of people believe that the birthday was December 25th, but the Bible doesn't indicate that. It would be very unusual for shepherds to be in the field at this cold time of the year when the fields were unproductive. And normally the practice was to keep the flocks in the fields from the spring to autumn. Also, winter would likely be an especially difficult time for pregnant Mary to travel long distances from Nazareth to the town of Bethlehem. It was later on that the church officially associated December 25th with the birth of Jesus Christ. When we look at the biblical accounts and the chronic accounts, it just wouldn't make sense for Jesus to be born on December 25th. The common belief is that he was born sometime in the fall. Which of these lies did you know about? Share your thoughts and comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out the recommended one.